basically the village of Hook Norton has had about 160 new houses in the last 7 or 8 years. And we went out as a part of the low carbon group and asked the community what they would like us to look at next. And the last thing we expect them to do was say, we'd like you to look at some more housing. But they did. And people, we had an overwhelming response. I mean, like 80 or 90% of people we spoke to, which is about 500 or 600 individual returns on this questionnaire, said, we'd like you to look at housing. And the reasons for that, when we dug into that, was we'd like housing that reflects our ambitions, which is about keeping local people in the community, making affordable housing that people can stay, that with links to the area can stay in, and defining and creating housing that is really puts the sustainability, comfort, and placemaking at the front. So from using passive house principles to design the building, so very high insulation, air tightness, mechanical ventilation, heat recovery, photovoltaic panels, and critically, as well as the sort of social sustainability. So trying to focus on a shared community space, a community building, which could be a work hub or a cafe, a flexible, smaller scale community building, highly insulated, so warm. I'm sure, Paul, you've sat in a drafty village hall before, and they're not the most comfortable of places, and they're very expensive and energy intensive to heat for a few hours every week. So we wanted to try and make something much more suited to modern use, and to create a place for people to grow food. And critically, so to look at also transport. So we've got a car club, which is electric cars, 5 cars located in the development, and all of that sort of brings together this holistic attitude to creating place.
A lot of the homes are just unaffordable to people, especially young people just trying to live and work in the village. So, there's a lot of young people working in jobs in the shops, the pubs, playgroups, but they were on, close to the minimum wage. And so the question cropped up, where are they supposed to live? And they're all leaving the village to try and find cheaper accommodation quite far away, really. So what we really wanted to do was to make sure that there was really good quality, well-designed, affordable accommodation that would be fit for the future. And but really well and sustainably built houses that generate their own energy and everything are often way out of the price range of people on low incomes. So we really wanted to address that and to bring a little bit of equality into the project in this community, in the hope that that can then be replicated around the county and nationally, really. So.
It's been designed and built out by the community. So going forward, the community is going to retain a role in the site. We have brought Sohar in to manage the affordable homes through a lease arrangement with them. But the community are holding on to the freehold of the market homes as well, the communal open space, and also a community building that's being provided. And in order to manage those, we set up a resident-led management company. So the residents will have a real say and a real control alongside HNCLT in how those services are run, what's paid for through their service charge, in keeping all of those up. And they will also look after the community building in terms of how that's used, trying to make best use of that for the wider community as well as for the residents on site.
It was a few years ago, but it was a fantastic bit of research which REBA and CABE, the Commission for Architecture and Built Environment, did before it was disbanded. But they asked people whether they thought that modern housing was of good quality, and 74% of people said it wasn't, and they're not interested in buying new housing. Now, you imagine any other industry where 74% of your potential buyers say that your product is rubbish. We've got a massive problem with housing. And actually, this scheme is about trying to challenge that. And actually, the idea that people can invest locally and get a good return on investment to help communities to help themselves is really part of it. It's not just about the house, because ultimately we're helping, it's 12 units, 8 of them are affordable rent to Sohar, who will run those. 4 of them are for sale. The sale of those 4 houses cross-subsidizes the construction of the whole site. Again, we're looking at mechanisms to keep that ownership local. But ultimately, if you can then find local people to invest money and get return on investment, you're creating a replicatable plan, which means that we can generally make a change and we can genuinely get a better quality of housing for more communities.
But I think that any other communities probably could do this. And the really sort of very sort of quite unique thing about some of the sustainability on this project is that we partnered with a company called Synergy and also Hook Norton Low Carbon, which already existed. And that's really to link, we've got 68 kilowatts of solar on the roofs of the homes. And there's also an existing 50 kilowatt output on the very nearby sports and social club. So those two are linked together now through a private wire, and we have a 100 kilowatt community battery on site as well. So that's providing a smart microgrid so that that will be able to slightly control the energy that's generated, and so that at times of peak demand that there'll be surplus energy saved in the community battery, and that will also lead to the residents having reduced energy prices as well. So and I think that normally you wouldn't get that on housing projects of less than 30 homes. So this is the first one, as far as we know, that's managed to do that for less than 30 homes. So I think that all of that together, with it being community-led, is a fantastic example, I think, for other communities to be able to start in their area. And we are already getting inquiries from other groups who are thinking of starting something in their community and sharing our knowledge and information with them.
We need a new narrative on housing, as I've said, right? And we need successful schemes that challenge the current way that the big 8 house builders deliver 60% of our housing. And ultimately, I think for many people that's not a particularly fair system, in that a few people get very rich and a lot of people see no benefit for expansion of their communities, or minimal benefit. And I think what we are trying to do, and why this scheme is important, is it's trying to set a new paradigm for that is not just about house, it's about home, and it's about community, and it's about the full facilities that you need around that house. So actually not just dropping houses out of space, actually understanding how they tie into local energy, local transport, and local work needs. And I think what we want from the project is, yes, we've been very fortunate. We had land, we had some money from our local Hook Norton group, we had really good contacts in the area to help us get the scheme off the ground. Not everyone's going to be able to do that. 100%. It's been very challenging. I think we would all hold our hands up and accept that, but very, very rewarding. But what I think is why it's really critical, and why we do need your investment, and we do need investment from hopefully local people, or people with an ethical mind, who get 6% return or 4% return, who genuinely get return from this, is that it makes it a financially sustainable project that people can hold up as an alternative. And we need alternatives. We need lamplighters. We need schemes that we can say, look how that can be done, so that we can put pressure on developers who might come to a town or a village near you and say, we want to build 50 houses. And you can start by going, that maybe not 50, but you can have some houses. But this is the kind of value set that we think is really important from these houses. And this is a successful scheme that you can go and visit locally, or in Oxfordshire, or nearby, or wherever, and understand what we think is important about housing. And we want you to take some of that away, and we want you to put some of that into what you're offering us. And I think that's why it's critical, and why it's so much bigger than 12 homes. I mean, let's face it, it's 12 homes. We need 300,000 homes a year, given government figures. It's a drop in the ocean. But I think conceptually, it's much bigger than that. And conceptually, you're not going to change the world with it, but you can help make a viable project that sets an alternative narrative. And that's why I think we really feel that, your money is not, whatever money you can spare is working hard. Maybe not financially return in the short term, but it will get return. And it's working hard in terms of creating a movement and creating a new way of looking at homes, which is one of the biggest problems we've got